Here we are in game 1 of the solo cash cup, and we're watching MrSavage compete on NAC, I believe, and he's at a staggering 90 ping. So if you think your ping is stopping you from earning, this video is meant to dispel that, because I'll be breaking down his two 10+ kill top 5s getting hundreds of points. And the thing about Savage is he's a very smart player. He's fighting in Storm because he knows this player won't be as good because he's on higher ping. He's not in a hot drop destination, and this guy has been taking ticks. He isn't able to do his fancy edits on 90 ping, so he just relaxes and waits for the enemy to make a mistake. And high ping kills are less of your skill and more of capitalizing on enemy errors like Savage shows here. And by the way, I am making this at the end of the season, so there will be some of the old items, but most of the strategies we'll be talking about are independent of whatever rotation or weapons are in the game. So I want to highlight this part because he is still being aggressive on high ping. He is going for the island, he's going for the mythics and medallion, and he is willing to fight for it. So a lot of people, when they are on higher ping, they're a little bit scared to play as aggressively, but Savage gets down into it and gets hit big. And I really wanted to highlight this because even though he is being aggressive and is still a good player, he takes a lot of damage, and I want to point out what he does here. He makes a bunch of boxes, makes a bunch of space, which is what you're supposed to do, what most people do, but something that I always do is I put cones in my boxes. Savage is specifically not putting cones on his floor. He's either leaving it empty or spreading across stairs. And I realized he's doing this so he can have a double layer of protection if somebody drops onto his walls. And the reason he's leaving some of them empty is if he gets surprise attacked, he can put it down behind his head. So after healing up, he's able to go back out and get some counter damage once a third party shows up. And because he got some damage on that person, he's now able to back off a little bit more and sneak around the POI and eventually finish up that kill. But he doesn't get this kill from some big fight. It's because he was sneaking around and playing more smart on a higher ping. One of the things he does well, instead of trying to take walls in high ping, is just pushing his nose through and phasing. He does it right here, then just wraps walls around his opponent to get an easy kill. I also want to point out that he's always looking to take a piece inside of somebody else's box, whether that's the floor and putting a cone there, maybe putting a stair, or in this case, putting that wall in between and going for the instant edit. It's endgame now, and he's in half and half zones, and he does this super unique structure of just building diagonally with metal and getting a good view onto the entire lobby. We'll talk about this a bit more later, but this is a good strategy he does for refreshes. It's very clear that MrSavage has a game plan for every single one of his games, because every time at the beginning of zone 9, he goes to the front of zone like he is right here and just continues to build up with these giant metal 1x1s. Technically, he isn't in zone, but he's very close, so he can just look back at the entire lobby, go for more kills, go for shots, get people weak, and then eventually build into the next zone. So obviously he's on front side, which means people need to go through him, and someone actually tries to contest him on height right here. He blocks them off with a few staircases so they're not actually able to teleport up, but if you are going to follow this strategy and take height in the same way that he does, you need to make sure that you're watching out for people trying to take that height from you. Obviously the Void Mask might not be in the game anymore by the time you're watching this, but whatever movement items are, just watch out for this. So he's been frying people in the air, but he's not able to get a kill until right here, and this is the refresh that he needs to go ahead and win this game, but he actually teleports a little short, so now he's not on top of the loot and is by a lot of people. He somehow gets into someone's box and then hits them for 180 damage and proceeds to try and chase them down. But on this high of a ping in an endgame and with the mats he has, it's not really worth it for him to fully chase this down even after hitting them for 180 damage. So he goes back up to height and then gets beamed, and now this guy is trying to chase him down for height, and he's actually actively fighting back. He does a smart move by trying to chop this guy out, and he actually gets some damage, but he gets chopped out as well and decides to go back down, teleport off of height, and decides to play for mid ground and actually ends up again on somebody's wall. So he does a quick awareness check on this guy, but that guy is able to escape yet again. So Savage is struggling to find refreshes, but he's not giving up. He heads to the front of zone and sticks on the edge, which is absolutely necessity when you're going for a refresh, and he's able to look back and get some big damage on somebody, and he doesn't get the kill right there, but he actually dies to zone, so he's able to go back into zone to grab those mats, loot whatever he needs, and now he's going back into safe zone. It's a little shambles. He got wood, but not much from that refresh, so he still needs to conserve a little bit and does this cool ramp tarp just to save a few mats. So I want to slow this down a little bit, but Savage is in a 2x1 and gets hit hard for a lot of damage. And something really important that he does that is very minuscule is this movement right here. He does this because he realizes his wooden wall is a one-shot and there's a ramp on it facing into his box, so anyone could easily one pickaxe swing or one shot phase into his box, and on a high ping, you can't do anything about that. So he makes sure to go into his next box over and play from over a tile away. So the guy didn't try to phase in and he makes it out, but those are the things you want to pay attention to, even if nothing comes from it. So with his limited mats, he's dropping down to low ground, and this is a circumstance in which he might die, but when you're sprinting around, you are able to find a kill here and there, and that's exactly what happens. Not much to learn on that one, but just improve your aim, and sometimes you might be able to find refreshes like that, but he is still in this game. So he pops his shield fish and actually gets pretty healthy, and while there are people in front of him, he doesn't instantly go for the shot. I know it's a small hesitation, but he's able to actually survive because of that and then go get that kill a second later. Okay, so he's in a top 5 scenario and he's looking at height, but he's not overly fixating on it. He knows that his biggest threat at the moment is the people on low ground that could fight him and kill him and try to get his mats, and although height is probably his biggest threat to fully winning the game because they're probably going to be the most stacked person, he just needs to block off the shots in the mid game while there are still people on low ground. Unfortunately, he goes down to the person on low ground because, like I said, those are the biggest threats to him at the moment until it is that top 2 scenario. But just like that, he's already into another game, and this game is another crazy high kill top 5. He kills that first guy by doing the slide bounce trick and gets the gun and is able to finish him off. I've skipped a few of his other kills, which are like AR beams and stuff like that. If you want to see those, I'll link his video below, but now he's in a true build fight with someone that is on like a hard 0 ping and he can't get any wall. But he doesn't overly try to. He never double pickaxe swings at any of this guy's pieces. He goes for a swing here, a wall reset, and then maybe another swing, or he'll shoot the wall, reset his wall, and then go for a swing right there, and he just never does 2 in a row, and that's something that you have to absolutely understand if you're playing on high ping. And don't get too antsy. This is still the same fight. They go all the way into zone. He's been pressuring for like 2-3 minutes, but he's not able to get the kill and eventually decides, you know, it's not worth it anymore and goes to back off. So here we are in Endgame, and he gets a max distance pull. And while I show you that, if you've rocked with my breakdown so far, please invest in the channel as we grow. And if you're feeling kind enough, please use code reidtheninja to help me out, or of course MrSavage's for his nice gameplay. But what you're supposed to do here in these situations is make a little halfway box out of wood so you're not really spamming your hard mats, but then this guy gets right onto him. And something that I do want to point out is he didn't start switching to hard mats, making some overly aggressive base, and he didn't just try to hold his wall because he's on high ping, so he just sprinted straight at the dude, tried to get a little movement going, and once he saw that he was safe, the other guy moved on, he then proceeded to move on. So I talked about it earlier, but he does this same strategy where he builds up in this weird diagonal formation with all metal, and he gets a really good storm vantage point. I really like when he does this because he does it in full metal and spends a lot of materials, but he's doing it to actively look for a refresh, which most of the time he is able to find. So he's pretty much banking on the fact that he's going to spend all these mats that he's instantly going to get back with whatever refresh he finds, but there is the chance that he doesn't find a refresh, and I want to make it clear that he's looking very early. This is still pretty early, and he has plenty of mats, so if he's not able to find a refresh immediately, it's not that big of a deal that he wasted all that since he still has plenty. So similarly to last game, he goes to the front of zone 9 and builds up in this giant metal 1x1. He then has the privilege of looking back and shooting people out of the sky once they try to teleport through him, and he has an established high ground. Storm eventually creates a little bit of pressure, so he can continue to just move on into next zone. However, a lot of people do think this is too early to hold and maintain a full sky base height, and MrSavage doesn't really do that either. Once a second height forms, he'll teleport off to it and create another height further into zone, so he didn't need to sky bridge the entire thing. However, if you did notice, he did build his height off of a 1x1 wooden box, so someone tries to chop him out, and he goes down to defend his height, kill that guy, and re-establish his high ground. So like a classic high ground hold, he's just beaming people who try to contest him and continuing to beam people below him. Although once he does start to get really low on mats, the sky base is too much to maintain. So he drops down to ramp a couple layers up off of second height to create a lower down sky bridge closer to all of the action. So if he needs to go for a refresh, he can drop down easier without taking fall damage. So now he's at dead 0 mats, and he does this strategy of just running around and staying invisible with the medallion as long as possible. Somebody Everybody else takes high ground for him. He drops down and actually does get a refresh down here on the bottom. He gets a couple more mats and keeps his game alive. He goes to the front side of zone and looks back for a refresh, which he actually almost gets here. I swear to God, that might be a ping server related thing because it looked like he blanked that guy, and that might have been the difference in this game. Not sure, but that's kind of what it looked like. However, he still gets super far in this game, mantles up, makes a really strong effort to try to get another kill and keep this game going, but unfortunately goes down to fall damage. However, if you want to know how to get that fourth into a first, this is Clix's insane win in the Eval Cup. Or if I have a new video from next season up yet, it'll be right here. Invest in the channel if you've enjoyed, use code reidtheninja, and on that note, I'm signing off.